So I'm Paul Sappho. I teach at Stanford, and I lead the Future Studies and Forecasting track here at Singularity University.
Paul, since you are an expert on future studies, which possibilities do you see for Korea? Which new industries, which new technologies?
I think the biggest opportunity for Korea here is basically Korea has to flee into the future. That all the industries that Korea has been built on are now being disrupted by things like 3D printing, by the new biotechnology revolution. We've seen the hollowing out of manufacturing. That's not a new phenomenon. So that in order to embrace those, I think the real challenge is Korea needs to change its business structure. Korea is a tremendously innovative country, but its business structure is too hierarchical and too rigid. And it needs to find a way to have its culture change as quickly as the technology is changing. So if you wanted one specific example, in large Korean companies, the one thing they all have in common is there's the conference room where the tables are shaped like a V, very formal, and the boss sits at the front or he sits. The first thing Korean companies need to do is demolish those conference rooms, get rid of them, get flexible tables. If Korea doesn't change its business culture, it will miss the next wave of innovation.
So for Hyundai Motors, driverless cars may destroy all those regular cars and parking lots and all that, as well as a KEPCO. Microgrids will come in instead of one company delivering all the electricity, fossil fuel electricity. So what will happen to those companies? What do they have to change?
Quite simply put, technology triggers revolutions. And every time one door closes, another door opens. So with robotic cars, it means in the long run we may need less cars because they'll be shared more. We all know that. And so companies have to say, each new abundance creates a new scarcity. And so you have to look for the new scarcity that comes out of the new abundance. If we have robotic cars, well, there will be a new kind of scarcity that comes out of that. Perhaps it's personalization of the automobiles. Perhaps it's the specific experience.
So those companies like Hyundai or Kia may have to be prepared for rental companies or car rental.
Well, we can see for example, we can see the general shape of what robotic cars brings. Fewer cars on the road, more car sharing and the like. The question is, how long does that take time-wise? William Gibson famously observed, the future's already arrived, it's just not evenly distributed yet. So it's even possible that companies can make a fortune in a declining industry, as long as they know it's declining. So an example, Blockbuster in the United States, video rental business. In the mid-1980s, everybody said, we're going to electronic delivery, no more videotapes, no more CDs. And Blockbuster wisely said, it's going to take a while. And if we're really smart, we can make a fortune slowly going out of business while everybody else loses a fortune trying to get into our business. So one most important question to ask is, first, you have to identify the technologies on the horizon. Secondly, then have to say, how quickly are the impacts really going to come? Some impacts will be sudden, some will be long-term, and so there may be parts of your legacy business that will be very profitable, even as they're shrinking, and they can be used to fund the new industry. So don't confuse the macro with the micro. The macro vision is pretty clear. We could talk about robotic cars, we could talk about pharmaceuticals, we'd all pretty much agree on the macro. The micro details are what make business success and failure. And Mark Twain once said about writing, the difference between the right word and the almost right word is the difference between the lightning and the lightning bug.
Lightning bug.
And you want the lightning, not the lightning bug.
Right.
So really the big challenge for managers and executives here is not to just get the macro. That's easy. It's how do you translate that out into a timeline where you avoid surprise. That's the real challenge.
Another question for...
One other thought. in Silicon Valley, what I see, there's no shortage of vision here. And you go to any large company, everybody has a pretty good sense of what's happening in all these industries. What Silicon Valley does differently because of the startup culture is we pursue the new space with passion. I've seen lots of companies say, oh yeah, you know, this is going to change, we need to do this, but they don't use passion and they don't use urgency because they're too comfortable. And so what really, really matters is the determination to make it happen and the passion to say, we are serious about this. This just isn't one of a dozen other projects. No, this is the future of the company. That's why startups have an advantage over big companies.
There is a POSCO, which is a steel maker, largest steel maker in Korea. And Stone Age is gone, bronze, and now steel is gone. Graphene is coming. What do you think of graphenes taking over steel industry, and what do they have to prepare?
Well, I think we're going to
POSCO?
be using steel for quite a while. But we're going to be
For
making
10,
it in
20
different
years.
ways and the like. And, look at the shift. We went from, the old furnace style to mini mills and the impact of recycling and the like. That there's a long tail to steel. But yes, if you're growing quickly off a small base, it's going to be things like graphene. But graphene has issues of its own. It's going to take us time to figure out how to use it right.
Okay. And if 3D printing buildings are built, we have a large construction companies, who may be, I don't know, is this
Well, but
disruptive technology?
Korean companies have more experience with
Construction companies.
prefabricated buildings than we do in the United States. So this is an opportunity to, prefab buildings are halfway towards 3D printed buildings. And so this is an opportunity for Korean construction companies and manufacturers to go global.
Oh, that's a good idea. Go global. Any other questions?
No.
Good.
So we are coming to the where? The Florida. Next
Orlando.
one.
The
Orlando.
World Future Society.
Oh yeah, well of course
I
he's a
usually
pillar
bring
there.
30 to 40, Koreans to the
Wow.
World Future Society.
Oh, good.
So we are the second
We'll see you
largest
there.
company, country who brings many members.
Sure,
to
no,
the-
I have
You're
fond
coming.
memories.
Are you coming?